This is a series of 100 films about Japanese foods that I've eaten, and this is a film about New Year's Day foods in Japan. In Japan, Christmas and New Year's are reversed. There's a big build-up to the Christmas holiday because it's one of the biggest spending holidays of the year for couples. It's a day when every love hotel is filled and men splurge on fancy champagne and cake for their girlfriends. November 6th was the day I moved to Japan. When I visited the local Starbucks, they were already playing Christmas music. New Year's is the holiday where you spend with your family. New Year's Eve is a big deal in Japan. Everything shuts down around the 29th or the 30th, and a lot of stores are closed. Airplanes, bullet trains, and buses are double packed for everybody to get back home in time. People ring in the new year at a shrine with their families where they drink sake, or as the Japanese would say, nihonshu. Many stay up all night to watch the first sunrise of the new year. And on New Year's, I was with my ex-girlfriend and she made me pull out the TV and we had some champagne and watched the Red and White Show. Now, the Red and White Show is a 1970s style variety concert televised every year in Japan on New Year's Eve. It's a very big deal. And a few people go out with their friends, like we would back home, to what the Japanese call a countdown party. Shibuya's Hachiko crossing is the most popular place for this when the clock strikes midnight. Strangely enough, New Year's is the time when Japanese clean their houses, roughly akin to spring cleaning in the Western world. Usually the duty, though, falls on the younger women in a family. And you'll hear lots of people banging on sticks in the street and yelling. These are the neighborhood patrols warning people not to burn their houses down. December is a time of very low humidity in Tokyo and Osaka, so too many vacationing salarymen fall asleep in front of the TV with lit cigarettes. The Japanese New Year break starts around the 31st and goes to about the 5th or the 6th of January, and traditionally most stores were closed. Recently, more chain restaurants and stores stay open, and Japan has a strong New Year's cuisine tradition. It's called osechi. These are pre-made foods for people to eat during New Year's Day, giving housewives a break from cooking. And traditionally, osechi were heavily salted to preserve through the holidays. But with modern refrigeration, even foods like raw salmon are now included with osechi. And these foods are sold in giant, ornate boxes, only around New Year's, with all the foods pre-made. You can even buy cheap ones at the 100 yen store, or go to the fancy Parco department store and drop $300 on an extravagant box, all to give mom a break from cooking. Osechi aren't normally found at restaurants, so unless you're visiting a Japanese family on New Year's Day, you'll probably have very little chance to try these foods. And from reliable sources, I've heard you're not missing all that much. Osechi aren't necessarily the best tasting Japanese food, but here's a photo from Wikipedia of a fancy osechi box, the kind you'd buy at a high-end department store. There's a lot of sashimi and crayfish. But what about all the other weird foods in the boxes? Well, here's a breakdown of the most common. Renkon, or lotus root. Now, these aren't bad, one of the better foods here. The holes are supposed to, represent purity or fertility. And a lot of these things, well, they have a lot of holes. This is kombu maki. It's simmered rolled kombu, or seaweed. Seaweed preserves well. However, if you're eating seaweed as a dish, things are going to get dire. This is tai. So yes, it's a dead fish served whole, known as sea bream. Not sure how this is eating or how traumatizing seeing a dead fish is for Japanese children, but it explains a lot. And this is kurikinton. This is sweetened chestnut paste, supposed to represent gold and fortune. I've never tried it. I'm too afraid. This one is datemaki. This is sweetened cooked rolled up egg, supposed to represent a wall scroll. This is kamaboko. These are processed fish cakes, not Neapolitan ice cream. And their taste is hard to describe in English, but it's not all that appealing. They're to ward off evil spirits, but by their taste, they should ward off pretty much everyone. This one is Kazunoko, cured herring eggs. I thought this was some kind of turnip the first time I tried it. It's dried herring roe meant to represent family because it's tight-knit. Get it? This one is kuromame. They're black beans, which represents an old person blackened by the sun because they live so long or something like that. And here's soba, often eaten at shrines on New Year's Eve. And finally, we have ozoni. It's a mochi soup. Everybody eats it. And mochi is a processed rice cake made by pounding cooked rice. And when asked, what's your favorite osechi food, people usually answer ozoni. Again, this kind of food is not going to blow your mind or anything, but it will keep in the cupboard for a few days. And be careful with the mochi. Every year, it is the most common cause of death for over 65s during the New Year's week. It's so sticky that old people can't chew it properly. They get it lodged in their windpipe and die. TV News even keeps a rolling body count over the New Year's holidays of mochi-related deaths and injuries. So don't eat it alone. Where can I get it? That's right, you guessed it, this place, the Shibuya Seibu Department Store. Why not go for the best? Prepare for these osechi boxes to empty your wallet. And if you're new to Japan, you'll probably want to start in Shinjuku since it's the busiest train station in the world. Take the Yamanote line from platform 14 in the Osaki direction to Shibuya Station. Go out of the Hachiko exit. Walk north on the western side of the train station up the main street next to the Tsutaya and Starbucks. Walk up the hill and it'll be on your left. As always, keep in mind this information may be out of date by the time you're watching this. The word of the day. The word of the day is yume. It means famous. Japanese people will love to say this kind of food or that place over there is famous, when really what they mean is it's very well known. So keep that in mind with the Japanese translation of yume. The English word famous is a bit more specific than yume. As always, feel free to watch this film 10 more times and follow along with me. At least that's what I do. Next time. So that's it until next time when we look at our final episode. So until then, sayonara.